If you look at the juries, what language did they, the juries, they had to negotiate about these singers, but they came from Russia, they came from France, they came from Austria. What language did they use?
General English. When somebody didn't understand, there was always somebody who could translate.
There were translators. There were interpreters.
Somebody in the jury. No, there was not an official man or woman who explained it in another language. If you mean, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. No, well, I was very surprised because in that time not so many people spoke English.
The atmosphere in between the jury was also, in general, very, very pleasant. But when it was really, when the discussion was done about the level or the worth of a singer or whatever it is, then they were very, very delicate in translating, because then you could influence somebody, even if you don't want it.
That's another question. How did you find these jury members all the time? What was the selection criterion? Just that they were a famous singer, because they are almost
not only famous singers, because from the very, very, very beginning we said, well, somebody can be a very, very good singer, but needn't be a very good adjudicator. And but when we were thinking, or sometimes we saw in the brochure, for instance, of the federation, which had most of all competitions as a member, then we could ask, is René Seghers the right man to invite for the jury we have?
Because in what year did you become member of this international...
Me?
No, the IVC. Oh, when did they become a member?
Before we were a member, I don't know, because I think quite soon after I came in this job, I saw in all what they were sending to us, also the brochure of the federation, and I asked, are we member of the federation? Yeah, we are member. And who's going there every year? Because we had the yearly meetings. Yeah, nobody. It costs a lot of money, and we haven't got the money to go there. We need the money for other things. I remember I said, I think that absolutely is it without any sense to be member of this federation when you are not going there and hear what's going on in this kind of world. Yeah, and then they asked whether I wanted to go there. No, I have done. I think I was once or two times. Somebody else came together with me.
So I understand that from this international organization you also learned a lot, and that it led to changes in the organization of the IVC.
I think in the course of years it has changed quite a lot, also in the organization of the whole world.
How did the IVC change in your period? There were many changes. But
in the beginning it was very, now local is too few, but it's not true, but it has not the world atmosphere, you know, and you need to try to get a bit in that kind of field, because you come into contact with all kinds of people, which they have to understand why things are as they are, and also the atmosphere of this kind of competition in such a small town. Although there are more small towns, Luik in Belgium has still a very good competition, I think. And it's not Paris, it's not Luik is Luik, and so it's no direct need, but yeah, I don't know how Luik existed and other small towns, but it is important. At least to understand how the world reacts on things. And I think that we had a nice group where we at least tried to understand how they react. But it is always not local, but it has to do with your country where you're from. You have all your own mentality still. In Paris, it is different from here, organization.
Oh, I can imagine, yes. Still, from a number of countries came particularly much singers. Countries like the United States, the UK, Germany, but from the 1960s onward, also from East Europe. They discovered Den Bosch, and especially many singers came from Romania. And they also, between 1960 and 1975, a quarter of all the winners, 25%, is Romanian. It's amazing.
I think there are two things. I think, but I'm not a musician, I'm not a teacher in it, but what I've seen is that I think that physically people from the eastern countries, perhaps in their face or whatever it is, have another way of making sounds and things like that, because quite a lot of people speak very good, speak very loud or clear, have good speaking voices and also singing voices. So they have a base on which they can go on. Whereas in the northern countries or the western countries, is that not always the case? The singing culture in the eastern countries was anyhow far more than for instance here. Of course you had here also a few choirs, but I think there was no village where they had their own choir in Romania and whatever. Yeah. Apart from that, I think all those countries have their own culture. In England and countries like that, they have another singing culture as the others have, as the eastern countries. Perhaps also because of the physics, of the climate, everything takes part in that. Quite a lot of years that I was still working for this competition, the most information was asked from countries like England, Sweden, more than the Latin countries. The northern were more interested in this, what we were doing, and I think this, I can imagine that they thought that for this kind of countries like Holland and also northern Germany, they were more confronted with music which don't have these theatrical things. The good singers, leader singers from England, I think quite a lot came here. And because they also knew that the jury was very much interested, because the jury had to do also with that, you know. We also wanted to have people in the jury, adjudicators, who knew about the leader department. As the leader singers in general say, is that singing a lead can be, not technically, but can be more difficult than an aria, than an opera aria, because in that particular lead they sing the whole story of the opera. There's an opera on its own, whereas the other, the operatic things are part of the total performance you are coming for.
What you see in Den Bosch is that there is the jury and there is the audience. And the audience is usually waiting for the big voice with a big gesture. And also in the final concert you see that the programs are usually opera programs.
Yeah.
Whereas the singers, the leader singers who won, they won with their song interpretations, but then in the final concert they go outside their league, and then the press is usually a little bit that he was better in the finals. This is what you see now and then. Not always, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I think I understand, because okay, perhaps they haven't the response from the audience as an operatic singer, but they didn't came for this kind of response. They want to bring their own repertoire.
Absolutely, but the controversy was such that at one point during your time, there started to be discussions if they shouldn't make two competitions, one for lieder and oratoria and one for opera. This of course never happened because it's too expensive. In some countries like Spain, for instance, Barcelona, I can imagine that they're more focused on opera. And we in Holland, also in the Netherlands, we also have a strong tradition in singers who have been famous for oratorio and song. So I think there may be also a difference in musical culture between the North and the South, which makes Holland more interesting for certain singers from certain countries.
I think the difference between countries like, as you say, Spain or Italy, or in comparison with northern countries, might be different also because of the people who are coming to the concerts. The mentality of this kind of people from Spain, Italian people, Greek, whatever it is, more expect and more want to hear the wide things, or can I make it clear, you know, the theatrical things, than the leader, because the leader are always subtle, is that a good word?
They're more subtle, yeah.
And that's more difficult to reach your audience and get them out of their mind with a leader recital than with an evening of operatic arias, you know, that might be there. But the audience which is coming for the operatic things is, in a way, is different. But what I want to say is the countries, those countries, the Latin countries, let me say, I think are more, and especially were more open to the operatic things, the theatrical things, whereas here, more in the north, the people, well, don't want to say are more open. Of course, operatic is very popular everywhere, but it's different from the southern countries. And the audience makes also a bit of repertoire of a which is popular in a special country. It's difficult to have big halls filled up with, for a lieder recital instead of an operatic thing.
Yeah, there was a criticism in the press frequently when small-voiced lieder singers won the competition. They would say, what kind of career can this man have? He can at best sing some concerts in some small halls. It can never be an important career. Mm-hmm. And the idea of the press was that to choose a winner, you should choose someone who had a chance to have an important career worthy of the prize. Whereas it's clear that the juries thought that technique and style were actually more important than just a big career.
Yeah, I think it's important for the jury to discover where the singer, as long as we are talking about singers, can make for himself the best out of it, you know, where he feels better. And that is better. And a jury, I think when you have a good jury, they should try to involve in this, sometimes going together, because you have not frontiers, here starts and there opens, etc. But in general, I think that the repertoire they sing, for instance, here in Holland, you have here Elly Ameling, she sang quite a lot of operatic arias, but I don't know whether she really acted in an opera. Yeah, I
maybe
think
once
she
or
did
twice.
not.
No,
Yeah,
once or twice,
one.
maybe a
Yeah.
small role, maybe.
But it's not her career. But she made a wonderful career.